number.
Good morning,
So
Commissioner
the
Morris. Can you give us a
different
sound
way
check,
to
please?
point.
Check, 1, 2, 3.
And then-
Thank you very much, sir. You're in the new spot.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Good morning, Mayor Barker. Can you give us a sound check, please?
Good morning.
Thank you, sir.
I know in 2000. Good morning. Because that's what we were creating with the meeting minutes from 2016,
Good morning, Mayor Motley Broom. Can we get a sound check, please?
the last time. Hey. I was-
Morning, Mayor Barker. Can we get a sound check, please?
This is Mercedes Miller, the interim city manager, and I'm sitting in for the mayor.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm going.
Good morning, Commissioner Abdul Rahman. Can we get a sound check, please?
Good morning. Good morning. This is Commissioner Khadijah Abdul Rahman. How is everyone?
Doing well. You're sounding good. Wanna make sure-
Go in, I just connected from outside. But I didn't see that.
Suicide.
Okay, here it is. Fulton Security. Here, okay.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, I know
Good.
that on-
It's already-
Good morning, Self Millicent. Can we get a sound check, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody.
All right, thank you so much. Good morning, Commissioner Ellis. Can we get a sound check, please? Good morning, Commissioner Ellis. Can we get a sound check, please?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, thank you so much. Good morning, Mayor Paul. Can we get a sound check, please?
Good morning, all. How is everyone?
All is well. Thank you so much. Commissioner Hausman, can we get a sound check, please? Good morning, first off.
Well, good morning to you as well and to everyone else.
All right. Thank you
Seems
so
like
much.
seems like a Friday. Date's confusing me.
Just missing Ayrton and Hall.
IGA.
Good morning, Todd Long. Can we get a sound check, please?
They've got it as well as.
Blue.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much.
To-
Good morning, Vice Chair Natalie Hall. Can we get a sound check, please?
Yeah, yeah. The last time you guys had signing.
Good morning.
Okay, we just want to make sure your video is working now. If you can turn on the video, that would be awesome.
Good morning and welcome to the special call meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County. Today is June 30th, 2021, 10 o'clock a.m. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Rob Pitts.
Present.
Commissioner Liz Hausman.
Present.
Commissioner Bob Ellis. Commissioner Lee Morris.
Present.
Vice Chair Natalie Hall.
Present.
Commissioner Marvin Arrington Jr.
Present.
and Commissioner Khadijah Abdul Rahman.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And would you check, call the roll for the mayors, who's present?
City of Alpharetta, Mayor Gilbert. City of Atlanta, Mayor Bottoms. Chattahoochee Hills, Mayor Reed. College Park, Mayor Motley Broom.
Mercedes Miller sitting in for Mayor Motley Broom.
What did she say?
East Point, Mayor Holiday Ingram. Fairburn, Mayor Carhurst.
Present.
Hateville, Mayor Hallman. Johns Creek, Mayor Bodker.
Here.
Milton, Mayor Lockwood. Mountain Park, Mayor Steele. Palmetto,
Wait, was Mountain Park present?
Palmetto, Mayor Bodie. Roswell, Mayor Henry.
Present.
Sandy Springs, Mayor Paul.
Present.
South Fulton, Mayor Edwards. Union City, Mayor Williams.
Is it five? Am I correct?
I have 5.
Five, all right.
Chairman,
Yes.
I think we're going to need to either round up our mayors or hold off. You don't have 60% of the population represented in this call.
It looks like Mayor Edwards is on the call.
So let's confirm. We can look at attendees.
Mayor Edwards?
Mr. Chairman, I do see Mayor Henry.
Yes, she's present. Call Edwards.
Okay.
We have Motley Broom represented by Mercedes Miller, Carhurst, Barker, Henry, and Paul.
Looks like Mayor Holiday Ingram needs a link. Okay,
Is she with us?
just gonna send her a link.
Somebody has posted Bill Edwards' lovely face on the screen.
I see it.
The first time he's ever been silenced, if this is the case.
And the mute signal went off for a second when his name was called, but it went back on, so.
All right.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor Holiday Ingram. Can we get a sound check, please?
Good morning, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much.
Did you have Mayor Williams recorded?
No.
Did he?
Good morning.
There she is, Williams. All right, Union City. Mayor Barker, we there yet?
No, give me 1 second. One of the things I was doing, Mr. Chairman, is I'm pulling up the IGA page 1. And on the IGA page 1 in Exhibit A, we show the percentages. And right now we have, if I'm keeping track, we have College Park. We have Fairburn.
Yes.
We have Roswell.
Yes.
We have Sandy Springs. We
Yes.
have Union City. And we have Johns Creek. Did I leave anyone out?
Eastport.
Alpharetta is on by phone. Mr. Mayor Gilvin just texted me that.
Okay, so that gives us,
Mayor Edwards will be joining you in just a minute. He's
that'll
on-
probably push us over the top, which we need. Hang on.
% for Alpharetta.
All right, the manager has 64% before Alpharetta.
14.11.
Alpharetta would be.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I have 8.
We're there.
You there?
Mr. Chairman, you can move on.
All right, thank you so much, Mayor Barker. All right. We will proceed with the agenda as is printed and go to Board of Commissioners discussion. Mayor, Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir. Good morning, mayors and commissioners. Pleased to be with you to again, as we did 5 years ago, affirm the project list as well as set out next steps. So what I'm going to do is ask David Clark to give you a brief overview of the integrated project list, if you will, at least how it all sums up, answer any questions about the next steps. And then we also have asked Seth Milliken, I hope he's on at this point. He has met with us relative to the campaign that was launched in the last T-Splost, how the dollars were collected to support that campaign and the anticipated outcome. And Seth will be able to comment on those educational efforts that I'm sure we'll all be interested in. So if I could ask David Clark to give you that overview, and again, hopefully from the clerk's office, everyone received the project list from each city. So David.
Thank you very much, Dick. Tanya, can you put the presentation up, please?
Yeah, 1 moment.
All right. With Mountain Park having their council meeting on Monday night, all the cities have now submitted their final lists. We were able to finalize the Exhibit A of the IGA yesterday. All that has been sent out to each individual city for their final review to make sure that it came through. And so if you have not seen it yet, please let me know and I'll make sure that you'll get your city's version. But basically, none of the numbers have changed. We kept it, as we talked about in the past, Tier 1, which is 85%, Tier 1 and 2, which would be 100% of the collections, and then Tier 3 would be the 115% of the forecast, assuming that things came in easier or more aggressive than what Georgia State has provided us. Next slide, please. So what we did is we kind of just summarized all of the projects that the various categories and the money that each city has put together in this table, just so you can kind of see how each city viewed T-SPLOST slightly differently, which is great. That's exactly what T-SPLOST is supposed to be able to do, allow the flexibility for each city to apply the money towards whatever needs that they have in their specific cities. And so you can kind of see here is the overall breakdown that each city has given us. And then the next slide, Tanya. Here's just a breakdown of the types of categories. And what has really been kind of the main takeaway, this compared to the previous one, the largest components that collectively all the cities have put the money towards and that's 31.7% of that money, about $180 million or so, is for pedestrian and bike improvements. The second one is for operation and safety, those are the intersection projects. But in some of the public meetings that I sat in on that the various cities had, the citizens certainly were asking for a lot of pedestrian and bike improvements. And certainly, as you can see in this chart, the cities responded to that and included a sizable portion of the money towards those projects. And then the final slide is just a brief overview of kind of where we are right now and where we're going. Can you go to the one more slide, please? Perfect. So we have the final approval of the project list today. And I think later we'll talk a little bit about the signing ceremony that is being discussed to happen before the July 14th BOC meeting. If you remember, for those that were in office or were following the process back in 2016, we had a ceremony to sign the IGA formally with all the mayors in the atrium of the government center building. And we kind of used that as the kickoff of the educational campaign with all of the cities as they started gathering support for the upcoming referendum. Assuming that we do the IGA ceremony on July 14th, that puts us on schedule to have the Board of Commissioners do the call for referendum on August 3rd to meet the requirements in the IGA legislation. Then this late summer, early fall, do the educational campaign. November 2nd would be election day where this would be on it. The current T-SPLOST collections end on March 31st. And assuming that this referendum passes in November, seamlessly the T-SPLOST 2022, the 27 program collections would begin on April 1st. So with that, Mr. Manager, that's kind of a brief overview of where we are, and certainly appreciate all of the work that the city's mayors, councils, and certainly staff has done over the last month to finalize this list. Everybody met the deadline just like we asked them to, and it made it easy for us to put everything together.
Thank you, David, for summarizing that, and thanks to all the mayors and your staffs for putting together, I think, a terrific list of projects, well vetted, and I'm sure will be one that citizens will respond favorably to. I guess, Mr. Chairman, the only there were a couple of outstanding issues. One, is it the desire of the collective group to have a signing ceremony? That is what we did a year ago, and I think, or excuse me, 5 years ago, and has a PR value, but also has challenges for everyone to get here. And I think the county attorney raised, we could in fact call for the referendum earlier potentially. So for discussion of the group, I guess those two items are worthy of discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask, it's a minor formality since you've received the IGAs, but if you could poll the mayors and just get their confirmation that they are approving the IGA, that would be great, please.
Okay. Mayor Gilvin? Mayor Gilvin? We lose him?
I believe he's on the phone.
He said he was on the phone.
All right, can somebody call him? All right.
Yes, this is Jim Gilvin. Alpharetta did unanimously approve the IGA.
All right, thank you, Mayor Gilvin. College Park, Ms. Miller?
Approve.
Okay, Mayor Carhurst?
Unanimously approved.
Thank you, Mayor Carhurst. Mayor Vodka?
Approved.
Mayor Henry?
Approved.
Mayor Paul?
Approved.
Mayor Holiday Ingram?
Approved.
Mayor Williams?
Unanimously and overwhelmingly approved. Thank you.
Am I missing anyone? Mayor Edwards?
Mountain Park approved unanimously as well.
Mountain Park, okay. Mayor Edwards? Anyone else?
Never heard Bill be this quiet.
You can see his face.
Yeah, he's muted.
Let me ask you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
That IGA is on our, it's on for the 14th. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
It's on your agenda for the 14th,
Right.
which means it has not been approved, okay.
We don't see any problem, but with just timing would have been the 14th. And I conveyed that to your office
Okay,
and to the city manager.
that's not a problem with it.
Can you hear me?
Hold on.
There.
Your meeting, Mayor Edwards.
I conveyed to the county manager, we meet on the 14th. We don't see any problem with it. We should approve it overwhelmingly. So that's where we are right now.
But what time do you meet?
We meet at 4 o'clock.
What you think?
Is there a problem?
Signed the agreement, so we'll just do a special call meeting to do the T-SWAS.
Okay, let them speak up.
Yeah, so we were thinking of doing the calling for the referendum at the July 14th meeting.
Yeah.
We can just do a special called meeting. The Board of Commissioners can do a special called meeting after the 14th, once we get.
And that is fine. It was just a timing issue with us. I don't see any problem with us overwhelmingly approving it. It was just a timing issue with us.
But it has to be officially approved, right?
Yeah, because the resolution has attached to it the signed IGA. So
Yes, I understand, but that's where we are.
Good. They can't do the call for referendum in their next meeting, the Board of Commissioners.
it'll be too late. The next meeting's not until August 4th, I think.
Okay,
And it has to be done no later than August 3rd. So we'd have to
gotcha.
do a special call.
So
meeting.
after July 14th, we'll do a special call.
Yeah. So Mr. City County Manager, you and I talked about this earlier.
It's not a problem.
Okay. But I don't see any problem with it not passing.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm sorry, have you finished the roll call for the IGA? I didn't want to interrupt that.
No, we had.
Okay. Question, because I'm noticing that the amount in the spreadsheet, the table that was shared, is less than the amount on the list that we approved. And so I'm just wanted to clarify for the record, that spreadsheet does not include tier 3 projects. It only includes tier 1 and 2.
Correct.
That's correct.
It says that also, Mayor, in the last column.
I just want to clarify that for the record because I know I have people watching and our number is $5 million less. Thanks, Mayor Barker.
I would add, Exhibit A does include, Mayor, Tier 3, just for summary purposes. And we only chose Tier 1 and 2 because that's what we chose back in 2016 to kind of show everybody. So that's why there's a little bit of discrepancy between the two. But the Exhibit A list has all of $36 million worth of projects for East Point.
Thank you. I just wanted to clear that up for the record because that spreadsheet was shown. And so I just wanted to make sure that if anyone's watching, they're aware of that we're actually approving the full amount, but that table only does Tier 1 and 2, but that the full amount isn't referenced. So thank you so much, Mr. Clark.
Okay, who's here for representing Chattahoochee Hills? Who is it?
It's Rob Rokovitz. Can you hear me okay?
Now we can, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, the mayor's unable to be here, but on June 22nd, the mayor and council unanimously approved the list that was sent to David Clark.
All right, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Mayor Bodker?
Mr. Chairman, having taken the poll of the mayors and having achieved at this point roughly 81.55% approval, you've met the threshold to move forward with a referendum. And I believe the mayors are requesting that Fulton County put a T-SPLOS referendum on the November ballot.
All right, Mr. Manager, any comment? We're good to go?
No, I think that gives us the authority to move forward, and the board will take action based on what the county attorney said, and in a special call meeting before the meeting on the 4th, following the city of South Fulton's approval of their list.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Question.
Mr. Houseman?
Is there a reason that we could not, based on the percentage that's finalized at this point, make that request at our next meeting as scheduled and have City of South Fulton add it to it later? I mean, we're meeting the threshold. They're meeting the same day rather than having to have a special meeting.
Well, the resolution that the board would approve would include a copy of the executed IGA. And so your question is whether we could have an IGA that was not fully executed attached and then amend it later to include?
Yes, that's my question. It's a formality, it appears.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I might point out the language that Johns Creek objected to could cause a problem for you to pass something in advance. Not that I want to hold it up. I'd love to see on the 14th it move forward. And I wish that South Fulton were able to hold a special called meeting, at least no later than the 13th, to put us in that position. But the language says that a city that doesn't sign on to the IGA, which would then become a part of your resolution, would not receive any proceeds.
Mr. Mayor Edwards, did you hear that? Mayor Edwards?
I did hear that could be a strong possibility, yes.
So,
Mr. Chairman, am I understanding that that one possibility is to have the city of South Fulton have a specially called meeting, in which case we would approve this at our regularly scheduled July meeting, and if not, then we would have a specially called commission meeting sometime before June 30th. Is that the deadline, Kay?
The deadline is August 3rd. So
August 3rd. So our August 4th meeting doesn't work.
Correct.
So we'd have to have a specially called meeting sometime between July 15 and August 3. Is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Morris, let me work on that. Then there's a possibility that I can get that done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
okay, that seems to be the best option. Mayor Bachir?
I hate to take away, that would be perfect. I hate to take away from what I was hoping would be the celebration of today. It's a little different on Zoom than it was back in 2016 when we all got together, 2015, 2016, that culminated in the successful approval of the T-SPLOST referendum. But I do want to say that I'm very proud and thankful for the work of the Fulton County Commission, your leadership, Mr. Chairman, and the leadership of our mayors in bringing this forward. It's clear that it will move forward. It is my hope that the citizens will approve it because I can see from the consolidated list the benefits that will come across the county in all of the categories that are enumerated across that chart. And I think that's actually the T-SPLOST breakdown by city was actually quite instructional without even seeing the projects. You can see the vast improvements that come across so many categories. And I'm certainly very happy as I'm ending my term to be able to cast a vote in the positive direction for the city of Johns Creek. So thank you, colleagues, and I look forward to the education campaign and to see the results in November.
Thank you very much for that, Mayor Baca, your leadership and support as well. Mayor Carhurst.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to bring a comment that was made at my last council meeting on the 28th from a council person concerning your estimation of the 2019 census. The council person wanted to know whether or not the T-SPLOST projections will increase or decrease according to the 2020 census, and why whether or not we tried to get the 2020 numbers to include in this projection. Can anyone answer that question for this council person? I'm sure she's on the line.
And David Clark, can you answer that question?
I certainly can. Yeah, we tried to get the 2020 numbers, but the Census Department will not release those until September. So the numbers that they gave us was their official 2019 estimates. And so that's what we based all of the money distribution on. And once the IGA is signed, it was our envision that those numbers would not change.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mayor Baca.
I'm sorry, I should have lowered my hand.
Okay. All right, anyone else at this time? All right, Mr. Manager, seems like we're good to go.
Well, so the next subject, if the pleases the group, would be to ask Seth Milliken to relate some of his thoughts, plans for the educational campaign. So Seth, if you're on, if it's okay with you,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we'll turn the floor over to you.
Actually, there was one uncompleted item from your last discussion, if we can just get that out of the way, and that is assuming that the special called meeting is held by the city of South Fulton, can we still plan for the ceremony on the 14th?
I don't know why we can't.
Yeah.
We're okay, Madam.
That would be great.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mayor Baca.
I just have a question about what the ceremony is. I think we have to be very careful. We can educate, not advocate. So when we say the ceremony, what would the ceremony be about?
Well, I think implied in the, and that's a very good point, implied in the word is what it is. It's ceremonial. So it's really just a very brief function that would precede the Board of Commissioners meeting, and we'll get out some details on the specifics, but target 9 a.m. on that morning of the 14th, the mayors would be here in person. Of course, the commission is already here, and there would be a document that in the form of the IGA that would be signed. So it's not, it doesn't, I don't think, venture into the advocacy realm, but it does signal to the public all the elected officials' commitment to this process.
Yeah, and I just would like for us to think a little bit more about being intentional around the education and not advocacy. I mean, having a ceremony with all of us signing, ultimately the voters will make the decision on the November ballot as to whether or not this moves forward. And just, I don't want to have any issues around whether or not we're advocating or just educating.
Okay.
Mayor, we're very sensitive to that as well. We focused on that 5 years ago, and it's every intention to continue that focus on education, not advocacy.
Thank you, Commissioner Howson. We just want to avoid the appearance of any impropriety.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All right.
So back to Seth, speaking of education, back to Seth Milliken. Seth, if you're on, if you discuss that plan.
Manager, thank you. Mr. Chairman, commissioners and mayors, great to be with y'all this morning. As Mr. Anderson mentioned, we met a couple of weeks ago. And for those of y'all that I don't know or haven't had, Transportation Alliance, we're a policy and advocacy group that operates under the umbrella of the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. And we represent a number of different companies and associations that are all involved in the design and construction and use of transportation infrastructure all across the state of Georgia, everybody from Delta to railroads and Uber and Lyft as well. We really do kind of four things at the Alliance. I mentioned the advocacy and policy development functions. We also do a significant amount of public education around the state of Georgia through the Georgia Chamber's network of local chambers, like the North Fulton Chamber and the Savannah Chamber and the Rome-Floyd County Chamber. And then since 2012, we have been engaged in a number of different T-SPLOST campaigns as we've come alongside our local chamber partners, local government partners who are seeking transportation-oriented ballot referenda around the state of Georgia. And we've been involved in regional T-SPLOST dating back to 2010 and 2012, as well as a number of single county T-SPLOSTs over the last 6 years. Fulton County was to be congratulated in 2016 as y'all were the first county to go for a single county T-SPLOST in the state of Georgia. Now you're the first county that is going to be going up for renewal as well. And so that's a very exciting prospect for us as an organization. We're grateful to be in a position to support that effort. Just as for everyone's reference, we're also working currently with a number of other counties across the state that are looking at either renewal or new T-SPLOSTs, including Henry County, Forsyth County, Bibb County, and Chatham County as well. So very excited to see the progress that's taking place both here in the Metro Atlanta area and across the state of Georgia. Just to recap very quickly some of the things that we talked about last week, I anticipate that this effort will look very similar to what we did in partnership with y'all back in 2016. And I appreciate the focus and discussion today that we've heard around education. And our experience in doing these types of efforts over the last 10 years or so, education is far and away the most important component of ensuring success with these types of referenda. And that education has historically focused really around two things. Number one, making sure that the voters understand the process, the very deliberate, structured process that's been undertaken to get to the project list and bring the referendum before the voters, as well as focusing on what the outcomes are going to be and what those benefits will be for the voters in the individual communities throughout the cities and throughout the county. And so in 2016, we worked with our partners in the CID community and the business community at large who have significant presence in Fulton County to raise the money for that campaign. We worked through a 501c4 organization that was focused specifically around education. And we really communicated with a group of voters that we had identified as likely voters to come out and vote in November, and communicated with them directly through media like direct mail and social media, as well as phone contact. And I anticipate that the effort would look very similar to that. The only geographic difference, I think, in 2021 as opposed to 2016 is that we do have a new city with South Fulton, which was actually on the ballot with us in 2016. So we will certainly adjust our plans accordingly and do everything that we can to provide communications in each community that are very unique and specific to that community so the voters understand what's taking place in their communities and in their backyard. That's kind of a high level look at what we've discussed. The only other thing that I would say is particularly relevant to the outreach portion is that we were, I think, successful in 2016, largely because we were able to partner strongly with your staff in the individual cities, as well as with the county staff. Jessica Corbett was a key part of that effort. And we were able to check everything that we did back with the county and ensure that we were staying in compliance with the county's messaging and branding and things like that for the educational campaign. And I'm certain that we will do that this time around as well. So that's kind of a high level look. Happy to answer any questions or dive into any details for anybody that has questions, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk with y'all this morning.
Other questions? Any questions? Did you mention the cost? I know you and I talked about it, what you expected to raise.
We did, Mr. Chairman. In 2016, we spent about $350,000 on the overall education effort, and I anticipate we would probably aim for roughly that same budget this time around as well.
And you and your organization will be responsible for raising that amount of whatever the amount is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We're not requesting any participation from city or county government. We'll take the responsibility for raising those dollars.
Okay. Any questions?
I believe also, Mr. Chairman, we invited Todd Long, the penultimate transportation expert, to be on with us. If any, Todd, I'm assuming you are on. I think I see you. If anyone has any question, or Todd, do you have any comments about our learnings from previous effort and what the current environment may be out there?
A lot's happened since we did this. Just a reminder, Fulton was the first county in the state to pass a single county T-Splosh. We were allowed to do it a year before the other counties. And now with now 4 regions having the sales tax, and looks like another 40 counties or so have the single county T-Splosh. Over 100 counties of the 159 counties in Georgia, I think Seth is about right, have some sort of dedicated funding source for transportation. In fact, by quirk of the law, Ware County actually has 2 pennies down in South Georgia. They're overlapped from a single county to a region. But this is great. It's historic to get it done again. My suggestion to you next time is obviously figure out the transit component and maybe even get it raised up from 0.75 to a full penny. Like the other counties all have a full penny. I'm disappointed that I know Atlanta's not chose to do the sales tax this time around at the same time. I think they're postponing it till May. It's my understanding. But this is a great victory for all the mayors, and just I wish everybody well. And David, I've seen the list, and looks like a really good assortment of strategies from every different city, and every city has a different strategy. So look forward to working with you guys further on it.
Thank you, Todd. Mr. Chairman, so any questions for either Todd or Seth? Or
any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, this is Seth Milligan. If I could make one other comment to a point that Todd made a while ago. One of the issue areas in which we're doing a lot of work on the policy side at the statewide level is looking at the growth that's taking place down at the Port of Savannah and how that's driving freight and logistics traffic across the state. One of the things that we've learned is that coming out of the pandemic, there's been a significant increase in e-commerce activity across the state as folks have kind of shifted their spending habits from traditional retail to ordering online and having those products delivered to their homes. And I think for counties all across the state of Georgia, but particularly for Fulton County, we know Georgia's a hub and spoke state very much, and this area is really the hub. And as it relates to transportation improvements, I think the leadership here in Fulton County is to be commended for stepping up and continuing this effort as the state seeks to respond to those changes in freight and logistics. And I think everybody's communities will be far better for it. So it's a great compliment to some of the trends that we're seeing across the state in those areas as well.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment. I noticed, I know a lot of these projects will deal with congestion, but I was struck by the fact that the category of congestion relief was one of the smaller total dollar items, and that's quite a change from a handful of years ago, when congestion relief was the mantra and the focus on so much of this. So I just thought that was interesting. Maybe it has to do with COVID and the reduction of congestion, but I was just struck by that. I thought that was interesting.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hausman?
Yes, and Commissioner Morris, I think we all agree that traffic is now back. I went into town twice this week and it took over an hour both times at odd times of the day. So traffic is definitely back. I just want to say that I want to thank all the cities for working with us, working together to accomplish this goal of going back for renewal. We went through a lot to get here, but I think what our end product is very, very commendable and productive for the entire region. It definitely for your individual cities, but it affects the entire region. And so I just want to say that I think we did a good job here, and I look forward to continuing to find ways that we can partner with our cities. And this is just a great example of how we can work together.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mayor Bodker.
One, it's great to have Todd Long with us again. It was certainly a fun journey the last time to have Todd in a slightly different role, but to speaking to his transit comments, I think the mayor's made it clear we support transit. It's just a matter of finding the right way to fund it. And it's just unfortunate that the timing of the pandemic and everything else puts us in a position where we thought this was the best course of action. But I look forward, at least in the time that I'm left in office, to continue to work with all of my colleagues and the commission to try to figure that out, because clearly we still have to have long-term solutions, even though we have a short-term relief to traffic.
Thank you, Mayor Bodker. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, if not, Mr. Manager, that really completes our agenda as printed, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we have some time left. If there are no objections, could you give us maybe an update on the where we are with respect to vaccines and rental assistance?
Yes, yes, we can step through that very quickly. Again, no charts prepared to let you know on the COVID-19 and vaccine front. All of the trends are very, very good. So we're down now to about 20 new cases a day. That's a low for the entire period. We have less than 100 folks in the hospital. That's also a low. The death rate is about 1 per day, so still can be tragic. In fact, one of my best friends that I'll be going to the funeral tomorrow lost a 40-year-old daughter-in-law and an unborn child. So it's still very, very serious in that respect. The vaccination rates and vaccinations obviously are the solution. We are continuing to push forward with that. We have now transitioned our operational footprint. Mercedes-Benz, as you know, has ceased to operate, also GICC, but we have created a new site that we publicized yesterday in South Fulton, in the city of South Fulton, there on Stonewall Tell, just by or in close proximity to the South Annex. So that location and 4700 North Point will be our 2 fixed sites. In fact, I just ran my 15-year-old son through 4700 North Point yesterday. So all of those continue to operate. What our focus is now is on mobile, as we've been talking about. I met with the team yesterday afternoon for about 2 hours. And we meet every Tuesday afternoon in a working session on how to perfect mobile. And what I mean by that is taking all the data that we have at a census tract and demographic level, where we are highly targeting both messaging, number 1, the mobile site location, number 2. Number 3, we're going to trial things like street teams that would go out in advance and day of those mobile sites being in a location to try to ensure that both awareness is high as well as addressing any concerns that may exist. And we're going to try various incentives. We don't have the big bang of a state lottery because I think that's off the table now. But we're going to try everything that that you can think of, and that would still be in compliance with federal law to incent folks to again take the vaccine. So we will be routinely communicating with you as to where those sites will be, what efforts we're making. Welcome any input from you again on that. But I think we will, using data analytics, we're going to have a good perspective on where the sites would be most productive, because we're using, again, I think a systematic approach where heretofore maybe it has been a little bit more just using our best judgment. We're trying to let this be driven by the numbers. And quite frankly, the numbers can show that in many census tracts, we're less than 5% vaccinated, where at the county level, we may be 50%. It also shows demographically that, as we mentioned on previous meetings, we still have a challenge with African Americans. So I think that's again, the intensity of our focus now and going forward. The other thing, of course, that we're working on, then I'll ask the Chief Operating Officer to comment on the emergency rental assistance.
Let's see if there are any questions.
All right.
Any questions on the where we are with respect to vaccines? Any questions, suggestions, comments?
One comment, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask Dick if he had a current number on the percentage vaccinated. You indicated a little over 50% maybe. But I was struck by one of the points in the presentation that the rate of infection for unvaccinated people is about as high as it was for the entire population at the height of the pandemic, which struck me as quite extraordinary and really part of the point of education for folks who aren't vaccinated. If the rate of infection for folks who are not vaccinated is as high as it was at the height of the pandemic, that's just extraordinary.
Yes, sir. It sure is.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
One other comment, and I apologize if this was previously mentioned at the prior mayor's meeting, which I wasn't able to attend, but I know we have been tracking as best we can the percentage of our own employee base that's been vaccinated, and we're getting updates on that at each of our meetings. And we had gotten some data from, I believe, both school systems as well as Grady as well. I do think it's something to consider for our city partners if they are doing the same, or they're not doing the same, to seek to do the same, and have that be a measurement that you're continually looking at. Because certainly, if we're throughout our county, through our employee bases, are hyper focused on that and pushing it in different ways and finding creative ways to get our workforces fully vaccinated, then that will have a contagion effect, throughout our communities as well. So just something for consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments, questions? All right.
So just briefly before diving into the emergency rental assistance program, which we have some good news in that front, I wanted everyone to know that we are working closely with our justice partners on the court backlog, which will fundamentally be one of the biggest operational challenges that we'll undertake as part of COVID response. We have now pre-clearance from the Department of Treasury, or Treasury Department, I should say, for use of the Rescue Act funds to support this. So that's very good news. Also, we have done a tremendous amount of work. Alton Adams has led it in interface to our justice partners. In fact, we're meeting with Chief Judge Brasher today at noon to try to tie down a few last items. But fundamentally, there's about 200,000 cases that are in the backlog. There are 1,000 folks that are in Fulton County Jail unindicted at this point as a consequence of this. It will take about 30 to 34 months to work this backlog down, and that assumes over 300 additional folks will be hired, ranging from judges to assistant district attorneys to public defenders and other court personnel. So it's a big challenge, certainly, to hire that number of people, get them onboarded, not have them a place to sit, as well as conduct court operations. So we're doing all of that planning now, but moving into the mode of really launching this program, and then fully committing to not only being able to successfully do this, but also setting a new standard going forward for how we adjudicate cases and adhere to case management standards. So I think we're all collectively excited that this can be solving a problem as well as setting a new path forward. But it is a big issue, and certainly plays in at some level to the crime that everyone is concerned about in Metro Atlanta. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to ask
Okay, just
Ms. Roach.
any questions on the court backlog situation?
Sorry about that.
Okay, continue.
So if I could ask Ms. Anna Roach, our Chief Operating Officer, to give you a brief update on the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Anna?
Madam COO, is she in there? She was.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Are you able to hear me now?
Now we can.
Yes.
Ma'am.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, along with our Fulton County mayors. I've been asked to provide a brief update on Fulton County's Emergency Rental Assistance Program. As a reminder, we do maintain a transparency page on emergency rental assistance, which is available. It is updated twice weekly, so there is almost real-time information on emergency rental assistance, and you can explore that information by city as well as by demographics. I encourage you to keep up to date with our performance as it relates to emergency rental assistance, to visit our publicly available transparency page. As you recall, we had over 15,000 applications at the start of our emergency rental assistance program, which was a call on approximately $54 million of the $18 million in funding that we received from the federal government. We started off by immediately identifying applications that were outside of our funding jurisdiction so that we could direct those applicants to the proper jurisdiction for them to seek funding. Once we did that, it appeared that we went from 54 million in total requested funding to approximately 37 million. And since the date we closed our applications for emergency rental assistance, we have been working to administer those $37 million in requests. As of today, we have expended 4.13 million in emergency rental assistance as well as utility assistance. And the breakdown for that is 3.9 million in rental assistance funding has been provided to constituents, and over 200,000 in utility assistance has been provided. As you know, Fulton County's community development team, our finance department, as well as our purchasing department, have been working diligently to identify measures in order to expedite our adjudication of the applications that we have received for emergency rental assistance. We have partnered with a firm, a company that is in the emergency rental assistance outsourcing space, and initially started with 32 augmented resources on the case review side. Since that time, we did notice that there was an increase based on the 32 additional individuals. And working off of that premise, we decided to augment the resources even further and hired an additional 70 case reviewers from that same firm. We started onboarding those resources on June 14th and completed the onboarding on June 21. And even with having recently completed the onboarding, we almost immediately saw an increase in the number of applications adjudicated. As an example, if you look at the trajectory of our approvals, which started in the low 100s in late April, early May, and jumped to around 300 when we added the first set of resources. In the midst of adding this more aggressive set of resources, we went from approving 447 applications on June 13th to approving 1,185 applications on June 20th. So we truly anticipate that this increase in resources will result in an expediting of our adjudication. And our current estimation is that we will complete adjudicating all of the applications from ERAP 1 within 7 weeks. So we are very hopeful that the measures that we have put in place, which includes those resource augmentation, but also partnerships with Equifax and other companies to automate some of the confirmations of information that we receive from applicants, that those measures that we put in place will put us in a good position to expedite our adjudication process. We continue to be in conversation with the State Department of Community Affairs, as well as our regional partners who received direct funding from the federal government. We are sharing information with each other. We are talking about how to avoid duplication of payments to landlords that operate in multi-jurisdictions. And most importantly, we have begun communications with the state for them to open up state-level applications to Fulton County applicants. I think the state of Georgia DCA is pleased with the pace of Fulton County applications. And we are the first locally funded jurisdiction that they have made an offer to open the state application process to our constituents. So again, we're pleased about the progress that we have made. We do believe that we have some good traction. And we are also looking forward to additional conversation with the state of Georgia, which would lead to the opening of the state application to residents here in Fulton County. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my summary, and I'm happy to take questions if there are any at this time.
Are there questions or comments? Any questions or comments? All right, thank you, Madam CO. And we still have time. Can you touch on our library situation, Madam COO?
Yes, we have opened all of our libraries that were closed as a result of COVID-19. They have all been reopened, and we are in the process of ribbon cuttings on 10 libraries that were renovated during that time and are now open for services to our constituents. We did Hapeville earlier this week, and yesterday we cut ribbons. I think it was Northeast and OC on those 2 libraries. I think our most highly anticipated reopening is the Central Library. We are looking for dates in September to do our grand reopening, which will also serve as a culmination of the entire bond program. It's been several years and several $100 million, and we're excited to bring that program to a closure, as well as open our libraries to constituents right now. So very excited about that, Mr. Chairman. Residents are able to go in and browse our libraries, check out books, which I think is a service that they have all missed and is timely, given that students are home from the on summer break from school.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm excited about the reopening of the libraries. I just have a question. When you say that they're reopened, does that mean that the community rooms that are in the libraries where the small community meetings can be held are available to the community as well?
That's a great question, Mayor Holiday Ingram. I'm working with Gail Holloman, who's our library director, as well as Joe Davis, who's our director for Department of Real Estate and Asset Management. That is somewhat the last aspect of our libraries that we have yet to fully make available. What we want to ensure is that we are able to provide enhanced janitorial services once we reopen those conference rooms, so that we can have additional cleanings that will be necessary when you have multiple individuals in a closed space. So if you give us perhaps another 2 weeks, we will coordinate both the cleaning as well as make available those study rooms and conference rooms.
So you think they'll be open by like middle of July?
We're hoping for that, but it's probably going to be closer to the end of July.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions for the manager, for COO? Anything else on anybody's mind that we can talk about? We have time. If not, all right, going once. Anything else? It's approximately 11 o'clock a.m. So no other matters that come before us today without objection, and we are adjourned. Thank you so much for your attendance and your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.